So how it started was I went to a card show in Elkhart, Indiana. A guy named Fred put it on. And Fred owned a card shop, and next to him was an empty, like, Dollar General.
Yep.
And so he rented it. Well, because it was empty and vacant, no AC, no bathrooms. Because they were like, why would we run the AC? The building's vacant. And so when you went in there was like 40 tables jammed in there. You just sweat through your shirt, July. And we were all having a ball. It's when you could buy a John Morant card at one show and the next week make $100 flipping it at the next one. It was the height of COVID. It was the height of the boom. And so we were really just having a really good time. But I left. I'm just like sweating, and I had to stop at a gas station to use the restroom because like for 4 hours there was no restroom available. And I just thought, that room was packed. And probably like any guy in life, you're like, I think I could do that. And that's no offense to Fred. He's an awesome human still in the hobby today. Doesn't run the show anymore. And I thought, I think I could do it. And so I actually went online, and there's some Indiana card communities. And I said, if I did a show, would anyone come to it? And like 20 guys were like, absolutely, you should do it. Now there's a surprise baked in that I'll get to. But so I'm blessed to have a father-in-law who owns a hotel. And I went to him and I said, if I had a card show in 5 or 6 weeks, would you give me a good rate on the room? Because if you know my father-in-law, he does very well for himself. And he's really my dad at this point. He's a huge influence in my life. And he was like, yeah, the first one. I mean, because that's just him. Like, it's business. And so he gave me a really good rate, got the tables, got the chairs. I did buy one, get one free. Because my thought was if I could sell 30, 40 tables, everyone would take a free one, and then I could market it as a 60, 70, 80 table, and more people might come because they'd be like, oh, this is a pretty big deal, not knowing I gave away half the tables. It was really one of the smartest things I ever did because it did draw a crowd. So we decided to have the show. I mean, this sounds like marketing, like terrible marketing. Monday, Labor Day. My first show was on a Monday. But I had the advantage of right across the street was the Midwest's largest flea market. And I thought if all the ladies go to the flea market, maybe they'll let their husbands come over across the road. The magic in it all was that I didn't really realize the state of Michigan was locked down on COVID and couldn't have card shows. So it was just like all these Michigan collectors on Labor Day of 2020 poured into the show. We had like 600 people come, and I thought I was at the height of card show promoting. Like, it was the best day. And the hilarious part of it is, and the people that are woven into this story all the way through are Stacy and Gabby. They ran the show for me. I got an intestinal infection.
I remember this.
I got the table set up, got them labeled with the famous, if you've ever been to Shipshewana, blue tape.
The blue tape.
Yep. Wrote everyone's name on it, and I was like,
you were dying.
I was, like, it was probably the sickest I've ever been in my life. 2 days after the show, I had to go to the hospital and get an IV. I was so sick. And so Gabby ran the show. Stacy had to work a half day. So she came up, but Gabby ran the show. And so all the guys were like, we thought your first show that a 14, 15-year-old girl ran the show. We were like, what did we sign up for? But they all loved it. They all were like, man, all these Michigan people came down, bought a ton of cards. So it was a great, great day. And that's how it started. Was I thought I could do it better. My father-in-law cut me a deal on a hotel room, and my daughter ran the first one. So here we are.
Crazy to think, if you told somebody all of those stories about that, it turned into what it turned into. It's kind of crazy. But knowing what it turned into now, and knowing where it was there, what do you think were like 2, 3 different things that you look back on and be like, these things helped it go from that hotel room with Gabby running it during the height of COVID? How did it go from there to there? Like, what are those things that you look back on and be like, this is why it worked out the way it did?
Yeah, I mean, I think the seeds to having the show that end up the way it did was, and this is just such a simple thing, but a lot of my dealers said, I took a chance on you because you had an awesome flyer. Whereas other people might type something up on Microsoft Word back then, or they might use clip art. I literally hired, I didn't have any budget for the show, but I paid like $150 for a flyer. And literally, dealers took a chance on it because they're like, if he cared that much, to have a nice flyer, I'll take a chance on it. And the other thing I did, obviously with the permission of other promoters, is I would go to shows and my favorite dealers, guys like Andy Paulo, Brad Hollister, guys that still set, these guys.
Yeah.
They still set up today. I went and recruited them. I'm like, okay, if if I were building a show, what would I want? Okay, I need a good dollar box guy. I'll get Eddie Thomas and Brad Hollister and Tom Nielsen. I need a good $50 to $250 auto guy. Andy Paulo's the best around for that. Well, I'll tell him to try to invite his friend Mikey, who might have some nice Michael Jordans he'll bring. So in case, someone with money stopped by, we could have something for him. So I really just, like, the first 40, 60 tables, I just built it with, one, what inventory they had, but two, were they good humans? Like, are these people that, like, I want to have a good show from? And I wasn't even thinking this far out, but I think why we developed such an awesome core is because good people know good people. Mm-hmm. And so they said, hey, the show was rocking. 600 people came the first time. So the second show, a whole nother set of awesome people came. Josh Freed. And I got to stop naming people because you always hate to miss someone that means a ton to you. But so that was the second thing, is I would recruit your core, because your core is going to become the heart of the show, and if you're going to be family or not. And that's how you find people like Courtney Reck and other people that mean so much to the show now. So those are a couple of things, like spend a little money on marketing. Like, everyone loves to do it cheap, but put a little money into it. I'm not saying stress your family out, but and then the third thing would be that I have learned, and that we're learning a lot and looking at some expansion. You got to just price these shows out and price out venues. Everyone thinks, well, if I rent the building for this much, I'm home free. Is there enough parking? Do tables and chairs come with the building? If you can get tables and chairs in the rent of the overall building, you're flying, because tables and chairs can cost a terrible amount to rent, set up. So yeah, and obviously, I guess if you can find a place you can expand in, because we've had to move buildings 3 times, and that's a blessing. But it's super nice that in our new building, I think we're going to be there a bit, because there's a lot of room to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a lot more room in this one. I mean, we packed the quite a few times.
Sure.
If you've been to the Shipshewana, cart show in the past, some of those big time Shipshewana shows, like Memorial Day weekend, a few times, you couldn't move. Brian's in the back nodding. Yes, obviously we film. Brian he's been at every show I've ever filmed at, basically, and we you try to get in there and try to film, and I mean, how wide were the aisles? 5 feet? Because they're in the barn, they were small aisles.
Yeah, and part of that's my fault. I always want to try to get people in. We were blessed to get like a rabid following early, and people. We had a wait list that was 2 years long, 100 dealers, and so I'd be like, I bet I can put one more table. I can cram it in that corner. So 5-foot aisles probably got down to 4-foot aisles. Thankfully, we're not in the building. I don't know if that was fire code approved or not, but yeah, the barn was overstuffed.
Yeah, Brian's got the video up now. It's a video from 11 months ago. It was like March. This would have been the same time a year ago. And when we were there last time, you can see a little bit on the video, but we couldn't walk through the aisles. So we sat at the front desk, like the check-in desk where Gabby and Stacy were, and we sat there and behind the counter to like make deals, because we couldn't get through the aisles and film. Like you could barely get through the aisles at all walking, let alone Brian being there to kind of film some of it. Going back to your point earlier, though, I think that I think I've mentioned it in every single Shipshewana video I've ever done. I start them a lot of the same way, and I end them a lot of the same way. This show's in the middle of nowhere, but it is run by good people, right? The man sitting next to me here is one of the best humans I know, and it has some of the best vendors in the country. And that has always been one of the things I've said so much about Shipshewana, is there's some amazing human beings that, are in this industry, and there's a lot of them that set up in Shipshewana. And I think that was so important for that. Like you said, good people know good people. Mm-hmm. For us, it's a lot like, going to Dallas. There's a lot of those people in Shipshewana, a lot of awesome humans that we go with, and every time it's easy. It's easy to make deals with. It to me is one of the things I look at from afar. We obviously worked together on this one, but you've run every single one up to this point, and I look at it and I'm like, this is definitely one of the things that helped it grow so much and expand so much over the years, is that great group of people, a lot of who still set up today and are a huge part of that show. I definitely look at that as like, this was instrumental.
Well, and it's something I think about a lot too. If we're blessed to expand like we think we might, it's so important to keep that core of dealers is as important as me and you, because it's the heart of the show, and it's, I think, the heart of the show that makes people go to Nowhere, Indiana.
Yeah.
So I think it's super important that we hold on to that and make sure those people feel like, hey, we're a huge part of this. And day one is a phrase we'll probably use to the end of time, because there's a lot of guys that I bet 80% of the people that took me up on the buy one get one free are still hanging out with me, even though we've had to raise some table prices over the years to keep up with expansions. But they're a great group.